We have a rather lengthy meeting tonight, so I would ask that anyone who has not signed up to please sign up that wants to speak tonight either on an item or either on a citizens to be heard. Right. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and close the special meeting. It is now 6:49. Anybody who has not signed up, please do so at this time, so it'll save confusion in the long run when we get started on that. Kim or Janet, would you bring me up the sign-up sheets, please, when you get a moment? Thank you. Okay, we go to item 3, which is the City Council will execute and close the executive session, which we did at the 6:49. I would also like to remind you that at any time during these proceedings and this council meeting that we can call another executive session if needed on the spot, whenever that's needed. And instead of retiring to the back, we will retire into this back here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if just in case it does, we will just make everybody aware that that could happen at any time during this meeting. Okay. Kurt, invocation.
Yes, sir. We have Pastor Ronnie Morgan with us here from the Castle Hills Christian Church to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Ronnie. Good to see you.
Father God, we thank you for our city. We're thankful for the residents. We're thankful for our businesses. We're thankful for our schools. We're thankful for our churches. I'm thankful for all of our city employees that work so hard. And I'm thankful for our elected officials. And we just ask for your wisdom and for your guidance. And we just pray that you'll be with every decision that's made here tonight. We just pray for a blessing over this time. In your precious holy name, amen.
Thank you, Ronnie. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance will be done by the color guard. And I would like to read something right before they come up. On a very short notice, Lieutenant Colonel Ramirez and the color guard agreed to perform at the ceremony to provide decorum and solemnity to honor Chief Rydell's service. The color guard will lead the ceremony with the presentation of colors. Then they will lead the group in the United States of America Pledge of Allegiance, as well as the Texas Pledge. Please rise for a presentation of colors from the Robert E. Lee High School ROTC Color Guard and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Jerry, will you please come forward with your lovely wife? Thank you. Good to see you both. On behalf of the City of Castle Hills, I present this U.S. flag that was flown over the U.S. Capitol, the Alamo, and the City of Castle Hills Hall. The Texas flag was flown over also the state capitol, the Alamo, the City of Castle Hills, in appreciation of your 37 years of dedication to the city and the residents of Castle Hills. Jerry, we've also put a resolution together commending Chief Jerry Riedel. This is resolution number R2017-04-11. A resolution commending Chief Riedel for 37 and a half years of loyal employment in the Castle Hills Fire Department and honoring Chief Riedel for his faithful, dedicated service to the residents of the city of Castle Hills. Whereas Chief Riedel has begun his service in the City of Castle Hills Department in October 25th, 1979. Whereas in 1979, he began work in the fire department as a firefighter, promoted to assistant in January 1st, 1999, promoted to chief in June 13th, 2000, and made the fire service his lifelong career until the retirement at April 30th, 2017. Whereas Chief Riedel has always faithfully performed the duties in an outstanding manner, whereas Chief Riedel's dedication and leadership skills have helped to instill a sense of importance and resolve in his fellow firefighters, and has helped our fire department to achieve its outstanding goals. Now therefore it be resolved by the City of Castle Hills and the City of Castle Hills, Texas, the City Council and the City of Castle Hills, Texas, that the City Council recognizes Chief Riedel's 37 and a half years. Thank you, Chief Riedel, for making an everlasting impression on the City of Castle Hills. Signed, Timothy A. Howell, Mayor, City of Castle Hills, and every council member serving at this time. Thank you, Gary. Before we all sit down, I wanted to say I've known Jerry for a number of years, and when taking over my position as city council and all the boards I've been on, we kind of have a joke that we always go back and forth with every morning, and what that is, you know, we hear a lot from sanitation, and we hear a lot from the police, and we hear a lot, but I'm not sure exactly what they do over there, except save lives, because you never hear a peep out of them. And I'm sure you pass that on to Mr. Dover. And every now and then, let me know. Poke your head in, will you? Thank you very much.
Well, I'll still be here for a couple more weeks, but I did want to take this opportunity to, first of all, thank my wife Linda and my son Greg for being here. To the council, to the mayor and the council, thank you for all your support all these years. It's truly been a pleasure. But most of all, the citizens of Castle Hills, thank you for letting me serve you. Thank you.
Thanks again, Chief. Ronnie, can you come forward, please? Ronnie Morgan is the senior pastor at the Castle Hills Christian Church, and I can't tell you how many times Ronnie has come to our rescue or volunteered himself to come up and feed our employees, whether it be on a Thanksgiving dinner or whether it be just to do it, because he felt led to do that. So we are honoring Ronnie and his church tonight. The City of Castle Hills Certificate of Appreciation awarded to Castle Hills Christian Church, Pastor Ronnie Morgan. The City of Castle Hills expressly thanks you with our deepest appreciation and gratitude for your continued support of the city staff. And thank you for your faithful devotion. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
I think we have one last one here. Okay, we're going to read this one. Anna Frias, are you here tonight? John Kenny? Okay. What this is it's a proclamation from the mayor's office. Basically, thank you for putting together the annual event. This will be our 8th annual event, 5K Fun Run. And would like to let everybody know that we still do have medals for sale. In case you'd want one, you can get with Kim, the city manager, afterwards. And also to remind you that we're having a kickoff party on April the 20th over at IBC Bank. I promise you it's going to be a good time. It always is. And we'll have a live band. We'll have things for the kids and just about something for everybody. So I would invite everyone to come, including all of your friends, anyone in the city of San Antonio under 5,000, because we only have so much food. But we will be having that over there. So with that said, this one is a special one to my heart. This goes back to the early days when I was on the Commons Committee, and there was a gentleman there by the name of Sam Beard who was also on that committee, and he was a crafty person. He and his wife Candy have lived here for a number of years. Candy still lives here over on Prince. And Sam decided during a meeting one day that he wanted to do something a little extra. So what he did is he hand-carved our Commons sign, which is out in the Commons now. Recently, we moved that sign due to the fact that we put a clock up there in the front, but I wanted to see it where everybody could see that sign if they were driving into City Hall 24/7 with lights. So what we did was Rick and his men, along with some electricians, put some lighting in there. They redid the sign over a period of time, and I would like to bring Candy forward and basically give her a proclamation and thanks for the city of Castle Hills, and also remind everyone that at the Fiesta, we're going to have a full-blown dedication with a band and the whole works to kick off part of our Fiesta activities. So Candy, as you know, I was very close to Sam, and I'm just glad we're able to do this today, because that piece of art that he has out there in our Commons will be here for many, many years. And I'm sure that people after us will make sure that it stays in excellent condition. So with the Certificate of Appreciation awarded to Candace Beard, the City of Castle Hill earnestly express our deepest appreciation and gratitude for your dedication and continued support to our city. Thank you for our lovely Commons sign, and believe it enhances the aesthetics and welcoming everyone to our city. Awarded this day, 11th of April, 2017, Tim Howell, Mayor, City of Castle Hills. Thank you, Kim.
Very much. Thank
Okay, the next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. And we have with us this evening one of our NEISD board members. And many of you know her. She used to be a Castle Hills resident a while back. And we're glad to welcome Sandy Wolf.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Move back? Okay. You tell me what to do. We did it for color guard. That was awesome. It was like right up there in the front. Well, maybe. I've never moved it. All right, that's a little more comfortable. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, and guests. My name is Sandy Wolf, and I'm very happy to be here this evening representing Northeast Independent School District. As the mayor mentioned, I was a resident for almost 10 years. My family, my parents have been residents for more than 25 of Castle Hills. I am your trustee on the Northeast School Board and would like to provide an update on your Castle Hills neighborhood public schools. I also represent the Lee High School cluster and all the feeder schools for Lee, as well as the Northeast School of the Arts, the International School of the Americas, and the STEM Academy, which are magnet schools within the cluster. I've heard the recent comments about questioning the quality of our neighborhood schools and would like to provide additional information about how our public schools are doing. I would like to set the record straight about the great things happening at Castle Hills Elementary, Jackson Middle School, Nimitz Middle School, and Lee High School and its affiliated magnet programs. These schools and our district are committed to a 360-degree education, academics plus extracurricular activities to grow well-rounded students, and we are doing it very, very well. NEISD is the 10th largest school district in Texas and second largest in San Antonio, with more than 67,000 students. Academically, our students have access to rigorous coursework and diverse experiences to ensure that they are ready for college or career. We offer pre-advanced placement AP courses beginning in middle school and continue pre-AP and AP courses in high school. Our AP program is what's considered open enrollment. This means any student who wants to participate can enroll at any time in a course. We also provide support for underserved students to be successful in AP coursework through extra programs called our AVID program. Across middle schools and high schools, we offer 48,000 seats in pre-AP courses and more than 16,500 seats in AP courses just this year. NEISD offered 30 different AP courses and increased the number of students receiving grades of 3, 4, or 5 on the AP exams, which qualifies them for college credit. Over 30% of our seniors scored a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam. Our high school students also earn college credit through dual credit courses. Students earn both high school credit and college credit concurrently. This academic year, we offered 35 different dual credit courses to over 2,000 students. I actually love dual credit because this means our families pay less for college and have the opportunity to save some real money. Northeast offers 25 career and technical programs of study. More than 53% of our high school students are taking a CTE course in NEISD. Close to 23% of 7th and 8th grade students are actually taking CTE high school credit courses while in middle school and will count towards high school credit so they could actually graduate a little early. Many of our students also participate in internship and work-based learning opportunities, and I love that our students have the opportunity to earn certifications while in high school. Our students have already earned 2,000 or more industry-recognized certifications and licenses. A couple of quick program facts about the Lee cluster. Castle Hills Elementary is developing our student leaders using Franklin Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The school is a Leader in Me Lighthouse School, which is prestigious recognition shared by only about 150 schools internationally. That's your Castle Hills Elementary. Jackson Middle School has a new and growing robotics club. In its first year, they earned 2 trophies at the Alamo East Robotics Competition, which I think we would all agree is very competitive. Nimitz Middle School is, of course, home to our STEM Academy, where our 6th grade students recently participated in an invention showcase modeled after Shark Tank and made it to the finals. Each year, hundreds of our ISA volunteers and their families work during Global Youth Day service at 12 sites throughout the city. This year, our students volunteered at many, many places. I don't even want to read them because it's way too many. We are seeing unique success for the class of 2017 at Lee High School. This is, I think, probably the coolest part of what I get to bring to you today. I'm very excited about this. So far, 2 of our seniors have received acceptance letters to Stanford. 3 students have been accepted to NYU, and additional admissions to Brown, Cornell, Berkeley, Caltech, Dartmouth, and a host of other really impressive universities have been received by our pending 2017 graduates. We have a lot to be proud of in NEISD and our public schools. We are doing great and providing the rigor, the opportunities, and the success that we all expect. I'm disheartened to hear that disparaging comments are being made, but I recognize that they may have been stated due to simple lack of knowledge and lack of education about our public school system. I invite all of you to come see some of the most beautiful, successful schools in the city and take the time to learn about our country's greatest assets, the public school system. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Sandy. Sandy, I also wanted to thank you. She brought it to my attention a while back that you did not have to have children in order to be a member of the NEISD PTA. They have different sponsor levels, and so I guess I'm not, thank you, Sandy. I signed up, and I would encourage anyone who would like to sign up. It really helps all those programs. Okay. All right. There was only one person to speak on a non-agenda item signed up. So because we have a lengthy meeting this morning, this evening, I guess we'll go ahead and move on. There was only one person to speak on a non-agenda item. Okay. The next item we're moving on to is the consent agenda. This is item 6. On that is consider approval of the January 10th, 2017 regular city council meeting minutes. B is consider the approval of March 14th, 2017 special and regular city council minutes. C is consider approval of the March 29th, 2017 special city council meeting. D is consider approval of the amendment to the February 6th, 2017 town hall meeting minutes. E is consider approval of the 2017 treasurer's report. F is consider the approval of the contract extension with Lineberger, Godden, Brer, and Sampson LLP for the collection of delinquent court fees and fines and delinquent property taxes for a 3-year period beginning May 31st. Is there anyone on council who has a question on these items? Douglas, okay, which one?
A, C, and D.
A, C, and D. Is there anyone else? Thank you. Douglas, you want to go ahead with your
In
question?
A, it'll be very quick. On the last page, Mayor Howell stated he wanted to take a minute and mention, add former city council member Bob Ford. Don't know. In C, on the section 11, 1, 2, third paragraph, I would rewrite it to say this: Councilmember Gregory expressed concerns regarding the city paying for this project. You then say he believes the state, period. Well, I don't know what that meant, so I'd strike that. And I'd change the next sentence to say, the original funding of this project was done by Mayor Rubin by lobbying Austin during the 1999 or 2000 session for the necessary funds. I would change that to clarify what that is saying, and that's all I would do in C. And in D, Part 3, you have Hand Goldstein, that's Hank Goldstein. And I really have a problem with this section because I don't really know why some of the things are highlighted and the others aren't. So, I mean, are we adding the highlighted sections? Are we omitting the highlighted sections, or what?
Kim? Kurt?
I think those are in your.
Did you give them the track changes? Yes. Oh, okay. So the highlighting or the color changes mean that that's what the amendment is. The colors on your copy, that means it's either being added or it's being struck. If it's a strike through, it's struck. If it's, you know, to
The one's
correct the.
black, the other's gray.
And you have a black and white copy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the gray is the additions.
All right. Is there going to be a final presentation, because there are things that are struck and there are things that aren't? Is this going to be cleaned up?
If you approve the amendment, then all the changes are integrated automatically, so it's a
That's
clean
all
copy.
I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to pull the item or go ahead and leave it as done and approve the minutes?
Leave it as done.
Thank you. Okay, with that said, do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. It is the consent agenda, so it is assumed to be passed. Okay. Why? It's a consent agenda. Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was looking at something here. Yes, all in favor? It is unanimous, thank you. All right. Let's move on to item number 7. We have an unusually large amount of people this evening to go through, and we're going to start off with the applicant tonight. Eva? Hello, Eva.
These things are always a little too short, too high, right?
You can pull that down if you need to.
I got it.
Okay, good,
Just wear taller heels.
sure.
Looks like it's coming on for you guys.
While we're waiting to get this started, I would like to introduce everyone to our admin staff who's here. We have our city manager, Kurt Vandewalde, has been working on this. We have one of our attorneys, Mike Brennan, who's with us tonight, and we also have Ryan Henry, who is with us. We have Kim, who is our city secretary. We have Suzanne, who is our financial officer, and we have Janet, who is our administrative person. I want to make sure I said that right. Okay. With that said, Eva, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor Howell. Thank you, Mayor and councilmen, members and city staff, administration, city attorneys, and everyone that's here tonight. We've spent a little more than 8 months getting to where we are tonight with y'all, and we appreciate the time and energy everyone has put into this. Development, growth, and change are never easy discussions for cities to have, and the decisions that you all make in terms of regarding the city's future, we know it's not an easy one. So, and as factual proposals that we can present, we understand that many of these decisions are run on emotions and that emotions are run high. So tonight, we're not going to regurgitate every step of this process. You've all seen many pieces of this project in various phases, and we know everyone's time is valuable, and there are probably a lot of people that want to talk about it tonight. So instead, we're just going to reiterate the 4 points that are in front of you. One, that this site we chose for a reason. It's appropriate for the site, it's appropriate land, its location, and its aesthetics meet everything that we would love to have in our new campus. Number two, that we've gone through and met all the requirements of the city development process. These are the items that we'd like to show you all tonight. We have followed every step of the process, and we have adopted the standards as stated when there was no locally adopted standard. As instructed, we followed the City of San Antonio standard throughout your code book. Number three is just that our development planning mitigates the traffic to an appropriate level of service. We came out of the last architectural committee meeting with the traffic issues still being mitigated. We have resolved that, and our engineers tonight will show you that. We've worked with 2 of the premier engineering facilities in the city of San Antonio, being Pape Dawson and Kimley Horn, and those professionals have put their seals on our study. And number 4, while it may not seem so now, Basis Castle Hills benefits the community of Castle Hills. We come to you to be a school, to be members of your community, and be a part of the city of Castle Hills. So as we go through the items tonight, hopefully you all will see just what those benefits are to your community and how we'd like to become a part of it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jake Bodell, who's our architect with Orcutt Winslow, and he'll take you through the harmonious designs of our facility for y'all to look.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We just briefly wanted to, once again, show the campus as we propose it. We believe this is an appropriate and harmonious design for the community through the materials, the volumes, the landscaping. We've tried to comply with everything that the ARC committee asked us in that regard. There are just a few more images showing this. This is a facility that we're proud of. It's highly functional, not just inside the high-tech classrooms, but also in the sound and lasting structure of the building, and also in the site that we've developed. Feel that all around is a design that we are proud of as Basis, the parents and students can be proud of, and that the community could also be proud of this. So this is the site plan as we propose it at this time. Over the last 8 months, we've gone through 10 distinct iterations that have evolved into what we feel is appropriate. There's landscape buffer on all sides of the site. We've tried to set it back from the neighbors in the street as much as possible. We, in everything else that we've been asked to do, have sought to make this a good design, including the optimization of the driveway location so that it minimizes the impact to the neighbors across the street and maximizes the increased width there of Winston Lane. So we also, at the ARC committee, showed 8 different schools, some of the stats of how they do it, and how we think this is a great example of a well-developed, well-proposed site for this school. So some of those are in the community of Castle Hills, others are local charters that are nearby. So we have a pretty simple table here, and I won't spend long on it, but what we wanted to show you is that our student capacity, as compared with the acres, is in line with what most charters do, but that's not really the best metric of a school, is how much acreage they have. We've built a dense and functional school that will function very well, and it doesn't require a lot of site because we're a different animal, a different kind of school than maybe the private schools or public schools that you're used to. Our athletic requirements are different. We would like to do an athletic field across the street. Not part of this proposal at this time, but That's not critical to our mission of educating students. So what we want to show is that if you compare us to all others, we're not the smallest site nor the biggest student population, but we do have the largest number of parking spaces of any of these that we're comparing to. So that's 200 spaces, and the largest queuing length. So it's 2,500 feet on site of queuing. None of these other schools that we've looked at, whether charter or public or private in Castle Hills, has a queuing length this long. And we've done that in an effort to minimize our traffic impact to the city streets. So we have met all the requirements that have been placed before us. And as Eva said, when there wasn't a well-developed standard, but many of these are very well-developed, what are required of us. But where that was not codified in your city statutes, we were told to follow San Antonio standards, which is what we've done. So this long laundry list of things that we've developed, that BASIS has invested in professionals and experts to develop, and in our minds it comes down to the traffic at the bottom. Perhaps there are other issues, but we have tried to engage on every front, on every one of these items, in doing the right things that we've been asked to. So here to discuss traffic is Amy Avery with Kimley Horn. As we said, she's our traffic expert, that she is certified as a public traffic operations engineer, and we have the two premier traffic engineers that are available to us locally, and she'll give us a report on what to expect with this school in place.
Thanks. I'm a little shorter again. Okay, fantastic. So the original traffic study was prepared using City of San Antonio requirements, as Castle Hills did not have their own specific requirements at the time. That study was prepared by Pape Dawson, covered 3 peak periods. Schools are a unique user of the transportation system. So the AM peak period is where the peak of the school will coincide very closely with the peak of your roadway network. In the afternoon, typical school dismissal times, there'll be another peak for the school, and the traffic that occurs during the PM peak of the roadway network is typically one of the smallest peaks for school land use. So when we look at projected peak hour trips, the rates that were used in the TIA that was prepared were based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual. So these are standard rates that have been collected over a year's worth of data at schools around the country. Acknowledging that those are, charter schools are a fairly new land use, they're new to the school marketplace. So we did validate those numbers with data that was collected at another BASIS school of similar size and composition in Scottsdale, Arizona, and those numbers were consistent. So that was just to back check and validate that original traffic study. Next one. And so as we went on, it became clear that one of the largest concerns was regarding the AM peak period. So we wanted to dive into a little more detail than the traffic study traditionally would cover, as it looks at a whole hour. So in looking at the specific operations of this school, there are 2 peak arrival periods in the morning. So there's a bell at 7:40 and a bell at 8:35. And those bells are not tied to an operational need of the school, it's tied to an educational need. So that is an extra class period each day that some students have. And so it's not that they've been staggered to make the traffic numbers work. That's actually how the school is going to operate, and they need that extra hour for those students. So the times are staggered, pushed a little bit, and you notice just to get the separation they needed on campus. For reference, the peak period of the intersection of Military Highway and Winston is from 7:45 to 8 o'clock a.m. So the Castle Hills Christian School does not overlap with the times that BASIS is proposing. So I know that a lot of questions came up about this intersection, and when we were here last week with the Architectural Review Committee, since then we've gone back and coordinated a bit more with TxDOT. So the TxDOT traffic signals, I don't want to go into too much about traffic signals, but the signals are coordinated with one another, or they should be. In this case, the coordination on Northwest Military, the City of San Antonio signals are coordinated and have a central controller software that keeps their clocks all in line. That doesn't happen on the TxDOT signals. And so those signals have a propensity to kind of drift away from one another, is what we call it, which means that you can lose coordination. So part of the additional mitigation that we've added in the last week, which has enabled us to get back to a more acceptable level of service, is to bring those two TxDOT signals, the one at West Avenue and the one at Winston, into the coordinated system. And then to line them up so that as traffic, both right-turning traffic from Lock Hill Selma onto Military and through traffic, will reach this signal when it is providing a green. So that's one change that's come up in the last week, and that enabled us to improve the level of service anticipated during that peak 20 minutes or so in the morning to a level of service D. So I know that was a big concern last week. And the level of service, D is tied to a range of 30 to 55 seconds of delay. That's an average per vehicle, it's weighted. And so obviously any impact to traffic on Military, because there are many more of them, would more quickly compound that level of service. So, and as a point of reference, because I know these are not the most acceptable or accessible grading systems that we use, a level of service F is a signal where you're not getting through in one cycle. So that's where you see it, you wait through an entire cycle, you still didn't get through, and you get through on the second, or maybe the third cycle if it's a really bad F. But so what we're proposing here would still be single service wait time to get through the cycle. So we want to take a snapshot of what the largest point, I watched the little video till I saw this and then I froze it because I know last week it was hard to see. So this would be the largest queue, which would be just before the signal changes. So this is after the signal on Military has been green, it's nearing the end of the cycle, and so traffic has queued up on Winston waiting for their turn. So this is right before their turn. So these are the queues, the teal cars you see are waiting to turn left. So the next one is a snapshot of another point in the traffic signal cycle, and this would be right after all the Winston traffic had been served, and we're getting ready to, when we've served the northbound left turners onto Winston, and so this would be the queue that built up on Military while that signal was red. So I know they're really small, so it's about 7 cars that are sitting there. And so these would be vehicles that came from other directions or entered from driveways, because we are able to catch the majority of the through traffic hitting the signal at a green with the additional coordination. The next one. So the mitigation that was identified for this intersection to achieve this is to install a southbound right turn lane. The purpose of that would be to get turning vehicles out of the through lane and into their own lane so that they can make that turn at a slower speed that's necessary to make a turn. The addition of an eastbound left turn lane, so that would be just to add additional capacity on Winston so that more vehicles can be processed per cycle. There are associated pedestrian improvements. Anytime you make an improvement to a traffic signal, as we would have to do to add the lane, you end up impacting the pedestrian elements, and at that time you need to bring them all up to current ADA standards. So those would be the pedestrian improvements, and that would be for all 4 corners of the intersection. And then of course modifying the signal timings to include that improved coordination on Northwest Military. And one thing you'll notice on this diagram, the white on the north side of the road, the stripe, so that's a sidewalk that would run from the school campus to the intersection. And so that's improving options for mobility in the area, so improving pedestrian connectivity. So the AM peak is where we're worried most about two heavy demand periods colliding with the roadway background peak and then the school peak. But in the afternoon, one of the main concerns is always the queue of parents picking up students. So in recent years, I mentioned charter schools are somewhat new land use, and so they're always doing additional research. And North Carolina's done a lot of research on what a charter school pickup queue looks like, and it is longer than a public school pickup queue. A lot of times these parents come from farther distances, and so if they're worried about traffic or weather, they do tend to arrive earlier because they do often travel farther distances. So there's a range in the new calculator. And so you'll see that there's a green dot. The green path shows the pickup queue that the cars will go through. And over on the far right side of the screen, you'll see, oh, I do have a pointer. You'll see the green dot, and that is the projected maximum back of queue. Now, I mentioned that was a range that was provided, so there's another dot here, which is the maximum end of the range. That is inside the right turn lane. We do not anticipate it would ever reach that point. There are several reasons why. One of them being that the Q calculator takes into account a school that ranges from K through 12. And the smaller, younger students take longer to get in their cars. They're still in booster seats, parents are buckling them in. So that's a slower loading process. And so we won't have any students here that aren't in middle school, so all of these students will be able to get in the car and buckle themselves. That's one reason for this one. BASIS also really encourages carpooling and has several shuttle options between their campuses. And so this red loop here is to provide a separate path for those vehicles. And so people, we anticipate, will be in there as well. So, but we did want to show that ultimate dot, but we really think we'll be closer to here or maybe even up there, just because middle school and high school students are a little quicker to load. One of the questions also that came up last week was about emergency vehicle access. All of these vehicles that are in the queues will be attended. None of the vehicles will be unattended. And should an emergency vehicle arrive, much like on any other highway in town that might be congested during rush hour, vehicles will move out of the way for an emergency vehicle. But there is also adequate width here on the side where we're proposing two lines of pickup at the same time. There's still almost 11 feet of space before the curb. And on the other side, the carpool shuttle side, there's, I think that says 18.9. It's around 19 feet of additional space there, which would be sufficient for an emergency vehicle to pass. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Bezanson, the CEO of BASIS, to wrap it up.
Mayor and council members, my name's Peter Bezanson, and I'm the CEO of BASIS, and I'm a little taller than our traffic person. We operate BASIS schools across the globe, from China to New York City, from Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia to Arizona, from California to here in Texas. My team and I are honored to receive your fair consideration of our project here in Castle Hills, and the entire BASIS community is appreciative of the work that you've done to prepare for this vote tonight. After I complete our presentation, in a second you'll hear from citizens who are opposed and from those who are in support of the BASIS Castle Hills project. To our supporters, I ask you to be rational, polite, and perhaps most importantly, as we look at the room, concise in your remarks. Regarding those who will speak against the project, I want the council to know that I've met with many of the opponents personally and privately. And while we may not share a beer together later on tonight, I've appreciated their candor and their polite discourse. Neighbors have brought concerns to the table, and as we have just discussed, we've mitigated those to the greatest degree possible. Nearby neighbors have had great ideas for improvements, and we've included them in revisions of the project. Great minds and good people can rationally disagree, and while we certainly have substantive disagreements to this day, those disagreements have never descended into discord. What you have in front of you today is a project that has been made better because of the dialogue between BASIS, the neighbors, and the city. As you consider the approval of this project, I ask you to look at the way that the BASIS team, many of whom are here today, have approached our new school construction projects in the last 3 years. We have a strong record of working well with city staff, with reaching meaningful and lasting compromises with neighborhood groups, with creating site plans that allow for an overabundance of queuing space, as you've just seen, and with follow-up enforcement of traffic plans. There's no better analog to the BASIS Castle Hills project than the one at BASIS Scottsdale last year. It is a similar site, similar school size, and is similarly located in a residential area. You have in your packets, or perhaps in your email, letters of support from Scottsdale Mayor Lane and City Traffic Engineer Basha. Both speak of how well we worked with them to solve issues and of our rapid response during construction and once school opened to a very small number of neighborhood issues that arose. The number of developed acres in the Scottsdale project was less than the number in the Basis Castle Hills plan, though the number of students at Basis Castle Hills will be about 20% less than in Scottsdale. In other words, we took a plan that worked in Scottsdale and made it better for Basis Castle Hills. At Basis Scottsdale, after the new building was completed, we completely reformed our parent population, making rule followers out of formerly rule breakers when it came to traffic. At Basis Castle Hills, just as at Basis Scottsdale, parents will follow the traffic rules, and they will do so because those rules will have real teeth. Basis Scottsdale is situated very similarly in a neighborhood like Basis Castle Hills will be, where parents can cut through, drop off, or park in the neighborhood that is adjacent to the school. But they do not do that. And they don't do it because they know that it's not allowed, and they at least perceive that they will get in serious trouble. At Basis Castle Hills, like Basis Scottsdale, we will be good neighbors and take our responsibility to be good neighbors seriously. At Basis Castle Hills, just as at Basis Scottsdale, we will meet with neighborhood groups at regular scheduled open meetings, at first monthly and then quarterly if possible, to address any further issues that may arise. There will be an increase of traffic on Winston Lane from Northwest Military Highway, especially around drop-off and pickup times, but we have a solid plan to mitigate and contain that. It will be a different experience for the neighbors directly adjacent to or near the site to live by a school rather than an open grass field, but we've worked hard to mitigate those impacts. We have invested significantly beyond what was originally budgeted for this project in order to resolve city and neighborhood issues. Our additional investment in the project and the changes we've continued to make, even between the ARC meeting and today, we believe has created the conditions under which you should be comfortable voting yes to Basis Castle Hills. We will, of course, take a reluctant yes vote, but what we really want is an excited yes vote. A yes vote for Basis Castle Hills is a vote to bring the best school in Bexar County and one of the top performing public schools in the world to Castle Hills. We are pleased to present this revised project to you for approval. We're eager to break ground and get started, and we'll be honored to not just be a Basis school in San Antonio, but to be Basis Castle Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Will someone, lights? Thank you. Okay. We have a 3 pages of people who would like to speak on this, and Quentin Baker came up to me a second ago, and there were 6 people who relinquished their time to him. So when we get into the actual discussion, we're going to allow 3 minutes for each person. But in the beginning, Quentin, I believe you were first on the list.
Say, Mayor, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Is ARC going to make a report on their decision or conclusions or recommendations before we start hearing the public hearing?
Sure, we can do that. Is Jack here? I didn't see Jack. Oh, Jack, okay. Sorry, Quentin. Give us just a second, okay? Thank you, Jack. Sorry I didn't see you back there.
I blend in, Mayor.
Yeah. You have one of those faces, you know, that...
Mayor, council members, thank you for inviting me to speak. Yes, we did take in a lot of information from the Basis folks. They're very good about providing information and answering questions for us. There were also much information that we received from the neighbors, who you may or may not know had hired their own traffic engineer. So we put all of that information together and ultimately decided that we would recommend denial of the project to you folks. I think in a word, we felt that it was just too much traffic for Winston Lane. We were concerned about that, the impact of the intersection, the impact of those neighbors between the school and Northwest Military. I think one member was concerned about unfunded mandates in the future. And I think, in a word, though, that's what the committee felt. It was the decision for denial was unanimous. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, we'll go back to, thank you, Mike. Okay, we're going to go back to our citizens to be heard on this. There were 6 people who decided that they would relinquish their time to Quentin Baker, which after that we'll get. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, it is now 7:49, and we will open the public hearing. Quentin, 18?
Sorry?
18 minutes?
18.
Okay.
We'll work hard for it.
All right.
All right.
6
Quentin
people.
Baker, 304 Foxhall Lane. Would like to start with actually introducing our second speaker, John Frable. He's with Lee Engineering, who a group of neighbors hired for an independent assessment of the traffic review. It actually helped for John to speak first, and then let me pick up from there. So if you don't mind, let me introduce John. He's a traffic engineer with 45 years of experience with Lee Engineering. Included in his career are stints with 3 cities as the city traffic engineer, including the city of San Antonio. So we've got a real traffic industry expert here that helped assess it. So with that, let me introduce John and let him speak about his review of the TIA. John?
Good evening, Mayor Howell, council members, city staff. My name is John Frable. I'm with Lee Engineering at 9901 IH10, Suite 680 here in San Antonio. And I'm here tonight on behalf of the Castle Hills homeowners who have retained our firm to review and offer comments on the traffic impact study as revised that was prepared by Pape Dawson Engineers. There's been a bunch of information that has transpired since that study was posted, but I'm not here to make comment on it because we have not had the opportunity or been afforded the opportunity to review any of the information that's that particularly Amy has presented. Our task was to review the content of the submitted TIA, not to impeach the study. And our firm has extensive experience in traffic impact analysis and is familiar with the best practices of school site layout, and particularly I have a lot of experience in San Antonio and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Our conclusions: we found that the study did follow the requirements of the city of San Antonio for a TIA. At one point, about 3 weeks ago, we shared our comments with the city's engineering consultant, Klotz, and presented them at last week's Architectural Review Committee meeting. Some issues that we have concerns on, even now, is the length of on-site queuing that's afforded for the amount of students that are out there. There's different ways of calculating how long a queue should be, and we've got ours, and we feel that the amount that's been presented is still insufficient. The original study made no mention of the splitting of the drop-off and pickup times based on the lower and higher grade levels. Apparently, there has been some discussion since the Pape Dawson study that has made the splitting of the grade level times for pickup and drop-off part of the site's operations plan. Also, there were the Pape Dawson study showed 2 drop-off points, but they were not specifically defined as to the use. We questioned Even though the original Pape Dawson study did correctly utilize the ITE trip generation methodology, we questioned the validity, well, I wouldn't say validity, the accuracy of the trip generation rates for ITE because of the very few number of studies that are available, and also because of some data that we've collected over a number of schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that would suggest that private charter schools have somewhere between 11 and 29% greater trip generation capacity than the ITE trip generation rates would suggest. Mitigation was suggested, and this was accomplished by adding capacity for turning movements and providing signal timing adjustments primarily. There was no discussion of mitigation that involved the relative intensity of the land use that's proposed. If there were, I guess, less students, there'd be less issues in traffic to mitigate, but that hasn't been presented as an alternative. But these are the high points of our review. And like I said, we don't have any problem with Pape Dawson's study except with the number of unanswered questions and perhaps the methodology in calculating the on-site queue storage that's required. And I'd be happy to answer any questions later that y'all may have. Thank you for your time.
Okay, my turn again. Can we go? Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the city's requirements. Our city has none. We do not, as a small city, have our own plan for this kind of situation. Pape Dawson and Basis elected to use the City of San Antonio methodology, so that's what we'll base this on. If we look in the City of San Antonio's requirements, well, one fundamental requirement is access from two roads, one of which has to be a collector road. Right? The site fails. We have one road, Winston Lane, a substandard rural two-lane road, as the only access road to the site. So one of the fundamental requirements is simply can't be met, and that is an insurmountable problem. Let's look to other authorities. Texas Transportation Institute, a state organization, research organization located at Texas A&M and College Station, published a study on site selection for schools. And it's really a nationally recognized study, considered a gold standard, used by a number of municipalities, which Blakely will speak about later on, has a nice long checklist of requirements in it for what's a good site selection, such as roads, such as emergency access, and other requirements. I'll let Blakely go into detail on that later. City of San Antonio also has requirements through memorandums of understandings with 12 school districts on what a good site would be for a new school. Charter schools are not yet part of that program, but 12 school districts are, and it's well laid out. So let's glean some important facts from both of those. One is never put a school on a non-collector road. Never put a school on a non-collector road. Again, this fails. And never have students exit on the right side, or excuse me, always have students exit on the right side of vehicles and go directly to a sidewalk. The planned site has students actually have to get out of cars and walk through the queued lines of cars. Okay. Peak hour factor, John just mentioned the analyses, and one of the pivotal pieces in the analysis is what's called the peak hour factor. That looks at the concentration of cars in a portion of an hour, not spread out over an entire hour. And that's a key piece here. So if you look at Lee Engineering's analysis, well, that is a key item that needs to be brought out, okay? Pape Dawson did not use a peak hour factor representatives of the school. In fact, what they've done is spread the traffic load out over an hour's period. which lessens the peak demand at any given point, and therefore underestimates the queue length. Plain and simple. It's underestimating the queue length for the cars by not using the appropriate peak hour factor. So, on-site queuing requirements. Okay, we've talked, you've heard the BASIS present, saying they have 2,500 feet of on-site queuing requirements. Going back to the city of San Antonio, they require that all cars be queued within the site, within the contiguous land of the site, and that's the 5 acres on South Winston. Right? It's actually a code violation to queue on a public roadway. And there's a citation right up there on the slide, all right? BASIS simply can't accommodate enough cars in the queue within their own site. So if we use the appropriate peak hour factors, Lee Engineering computed these, an average queue length would be about 4,900 feet, rounded up to 5,000 feet for easy mental reference here. If you look at the peak demand period, that could go to about 6,500 feet, well outside the property, all right? So of necessity, cars will be queued on our public roadways, okay? They can't queue it in the site. So it's impossible to accommodate 1,100 students within a 5-acre site, a very small site, regardless of the traffic mitigation, simply because the site's too small. It's a bad site selection. Maybe a great school, but it's a bad site selection. Graphically, let's look at that queue length. This is a Google Earth image, okay? A little bit zoomed out, it's a little hard to see. Northwest Military, it's the main artery right here coming down to Loop 410. Okay? Winston Lane coming off the side right over here, and the school is proposed to be right there, all right? If you take that peak length of queued cars at 6,500 will be the total length of that left yellow line. If you put that up starting at Lock Hill Selma in Northwest Military, that queue would extend almost to the feeders on Loop 410, all the way through the northern portion of the city of Castle Hills, all right? Well, within their own site, they have about 2,500 feet. So take 2,500 feet of it for cars that are snaked around inside of that lot. And there's about 1,000 feet on Winston Lane, and cars could queue up there. So the yellow line shown here is the balance of the traffic if you were to have it start at Lock Hill Selma and come south, and that means the tail end of that would be about the CVS pharmacy on Northwest Military. So that's all off-site queuing that would occur on public roadways. Okay? Obviously unacceptable. So it brings up safety issues. Our city's here to protect the safety, welfare, and well-being of our citizens, basic requirements, so we've got to look at safety. And in this situation, we are going to have students walking through queues of cars and crossing traffic. Okay? Winston Lane's proposed to be expanded three lanes, and we're likely to have students walking across that. Northwest Military, 5 lanes. So for renegade traffic, folks parking across the road, they have to cross 5 lanes. And then the on-site queued cars alone, the planned queue of cars will have students walking through the queue. Renegade traffic, okay, we've got likely renegade parking on West Castle, South Winston, and Foxhall. I want to let you know, I didn't make up the term renegade. That comes out of the traffic engineering community, okay? So that's not been mentioned in any of the presentations, but I think it's inevitable that we're going to have renegade traffic and parking on our back roads. And we've got to consider our emergency vehicles. There's only one access road in Winston Lane. And if the queues exist as we think they will, Winston's going to be clogged. There's not going to be access to get emergency vehicles through at those peak times. Okay, student safety, we've gone through just Google search looking at pedestrian to vehicle traffic incidents at schools. You'll see in the handout and on the slide there's about 6 citations. Those are all 2016 and 2017 of students being hit by a vehicle at a school just in the state of Texas. All right? So the issue of students being hit by cars is real. It's happening, and if you look at that, happening at a frequency about maybe 1 every other month or more. That's the high concern about student safety. All right? Lot size, the lot is a fundamental problem. It's only 5 acres. TTI has a formula for checking lot size. For middle schools, it shows the size should be 20 acres plus 1 acre per 100 students. If you do the math, that means this 1,100 student school should be a 30-acre site. It's only 5 acres. So we're 1/6 of the TTI recommended lot size for a middle school. 1/6. Let's look at the road size. American Institute of Architects says do not put buildings with more than 200 trips per day on a road that is 20 feet wide. Winston Lane's 20 feet wide at its best with no shoulders, all right? So we're gonna do a little bit of math here. Let's run the numbers. If we look at 1,100 vehicles plus staff, 1,100 students plus staff, let's say we've got 1,100 vehicles arriving in the morning, more or less, okay, rough numbers, okay? And let's say 800 leave and in the morning, so that's, I edited my screen. It should be 1,000 vehicles coming in, 800 leaving, sorry, I have a typo there. That's 1,800 vehicle trip ends in the morning alone. In the afternoon, the flow reverses, right? We have about 800 vehicles come in, we've got 200 parked. That means that 1,800 vehicles leave at the end of the day. So if you add it up, that's 3,600 vehicle end trips per day on Winston Lane, okay? Just do a flow calculation, right? 3,600 vehicle end trips per day, 18 times the maximum amount that AIA says should be on a 20-foot road, okay? So gross overload for South Winston. So let's talk about safety and engineering studies. We can cite our own state code for professional engineers that says professional engineers have a duty to protect the public, which means in engineering analysis, you have to favor analyses that go to the favor of public safety. And in this case, that means favoring analyses that would give you, if anything, a higher estimate of the traffic and length of queues rather than a lower estimate. That's the essence of doing work in the safety community. So using the lower assumed variables and having shorter queues is not favoring safety, and those lower estimates should be rejected. All right, I wanted to introduce you to a new concept that comes out of the safety community also, single points of failure. Actually, the reliability engineering community uses this even more extensively. A single point of failure is a part of any system that if that one part fails, the whole system stops working. Okay? The proposed plan has at least 4 single points of failure for a traffic study. And I've got them circled here on Winston Lane. You see the intersection of Northwest Military and Winston, got the length of Winston Lane itself, the entrance going into the property, and then a queue on this side of the property. And there's a 5th that would cripple about half of the capacity on the backside. If there's any kind of traffic incident in any one of those 4 spots, the whole traffic plan stops. That's it, because they're all single points of failure for the system. So any one of those spots, a traffic issue in any one of them, stops the plan, and then the queues build up right away. Single points of failure. It's a very unreliable system. Now let's introduce another concept in the safety community, inherently safer design. Okay? The safety community is advocating for inherently safer design, which is simply a design that removes or minimizes the hazards that exist. And in the risk management hierarchy, the way you drive risk down, there's 3 levels. There's passive systems, like the concrete jersey barriers we have along 410. No moving parts, no human intervention. They simply sit there and do their job, right? The second level is an active engineering system, like the yard arms at a railroad crossing. They have to come down to block traffic. But they're not foolproof, right? So not as good as a passive system. And then lastly is a category called administrative controls. And administrative controls is procedures, and it's human intervention. It relies on people doing the right things. And that's the weakest or worst element if you're looking at a risk hierarchy, right? Because those is all fallible. You're relying on humans to do things, and humans are fallible, right? So if you look at the basis design now with those things in mind, it requires students and parents to walk through queues of cars. The long queues are going to encourage renegade traffic and students walking across streets. It all requires, the whole plan requires procedures and human intervention. School staffs have to manage the traffic movement. You've got to get students into cars. You have to intervene if cars are holding up the works and move the cars out of the way. We've heard all those things presented at the ARC meeting. And this requires voluntary parent and student compliance, the weakest of all elements. So the design fails the inherently safer design principles. It's really a weak system just relying on human intervention. So putting this in risk numbers, this whole project has troubled me from the outset, and I finally got down and scratched a few things out to get my mind around why. And here's a simple analysis. It said students are required to move through cars on campus, all right? The movement of the queues is handled by human intervention. Humans are there to move the cars forward in the queue at different times. It's fallible there. But let's just look at the vehicle exposure on campus. Remember I said there's about 3,600 vehicle ends per day, okay? Let's assume that it takes a vehicle 5 starts and stops to get through campus. That's 18,000 vehicle start-stops in one day on the campus. That's 18,000 times for a distracted driver to make a mistake with kids walking through queues of cars. This is why this has bothered me so much from the outset. Okay. City engineer, I'm going to skip ahead on this, but real quickly, the review by the class folks showed the intersection at Northwest Military and Winston had an E rating in 2017 and an F rating by 2022. So no matter what, that intersection fails the test also. All right. I'll skip ahead here. Let's talk quickly about isolation of our neighbors at Northwest Military and Winston. There are 6 properties, 4 along the line, aligned along Winston Lane, 2 on Northwest Military. All right. So borrowing some slides, these are clips out of the video showing the traffic queued up. Again, here's our intersection. There's Winston. This is a red light at the Winston side, and the queue of cars blocks every driveway for our residents on Winston Lane. And you can see the queue of cars backed up here on Northwest Military. Go to a different view showing a red light on Northwest Military. Now you can see the queue of cars backed up into McGimpsey Park on that side with the one business and a residence in front, Northwest Military, now blocked. So our 6 folks at the end of the block are really isolated because of the traffic. So, in conclusion, there are problems here that can't be fixed. They're just fundamental problems that, regardless of mitigation, can't be fixed. The lot size of 5 acres is simply too small for 1,100 students. It's impossible to queue all the cars on site. Okay? You can't provide access to a second road. That's impossible. Okay? We have South Winston as a non-collector road that's being used. We've got problems with renegade traffic and parking that are inevitable, inherently unsafe and unreliable design, and then we isolate those 6 properties. So folks, I have to ask you in the strongest possible terms to reject this application for the building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Quentin. Okay, next on the list is, and I would remind you, we're having 3-minute limits now. John Freebley? Oh, John, sorry, oh, thank you. Yeah, that was inclusive, sorry. Blakely Fernandez. Hey, guys.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Blakely Fernandez, 316 Foxhall Lane. I'm sort of happy to be back here again, but certainly appreciate your time again. And following up on Quentin's presentation, I want to highlight a few things. Let's see. So the architect for the proposed project referred to it as a dense and functional school. And I think that's probably an accurate terminology for what we're talking about. Too dense for the site. Quentin's going to help me run through slides here. Thank you. So just a very quick look at the charter school TIA. Quentin and John covered a lot of this already, but I want to highlight a few things for you. First, the proposal is inconsistent with the recommended best practices. The TTI study that Quentin talked about, I think at the Architectural Review Committee, the basis traffic engineer said that that's an outdated study. I'll remind folks that Texas, Colorado, Kansas, Florida, Oregon, Iowa all still rely on this study, as does the American Planning Organization. City of San Antonio has an interlocal agreement with 12 public school districts. That agreement requires that public schools be located on collector roads. The city has found that it's appropriate for all schools to be on collector roads. They would not consider a TIA that didn't meet that threshold qualification. And then the third is the industry. If you can go back just one for me. The ITE, that's the Industry of Traffic Engineers, actually had a conference in September of last year to try and address this problem with charter schools because they found that using their traditional modeling was not working. So for example, the Ramsey campus of BASIS, I'm sure had a traffic engineering study that showed that it looked great on paper, but it doesn't work in reality. And so because that's an ongoing problem with charter schools, this conference was held. Lee Engineering presented, Wilbur Smith presented, and the City of San Antonio presented and specifically gave a report on the BASIS Ramsey campus as a problem along with a few other charter schools in San Antonio, but that one was really highlighted, the fact that the traffic engineering report could show that it all looks fine on paper, but in reality it doesn't work. So the industry has done a lot to try and change the way that they model for charter schools. They've identified some problems that are unique to charter schools, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, so we can run through these quickly, Quentin, but the point is if you look at the recommendations that you see from the industry, whether it's TTI, these are all, I think, from TTI, storage queuing, site selection process, you'll see that on the right side, the proposal does not match the recommendations on the left side. And so as we go through, we'll see the number of driveways. We've got too few driveways. The spacing is not correct. The parking is not adequate. Pedestrian and bicycle safety is not adequate, and Quentin covered the pedestrian issues. That's 3? Can I have 2 more minutes? Can somebody cede me some time? Okay, thank you. So parking operations don't work. This is the checklist that TTI has, and you can see that BASIS does not meet the checklist that's set out by the state standards. And nor does it meet the requirements of San Antonio. The key requirement of San Antonio, of course, is the collector road. So when they say that their traffic impact analysis achieves all of the requirements of the City of San Antonio, it doesn't even meet the very first requirement, which is that a school has to be on a collector road. We can skip through these next few. So what we end up with are 2 fundamental issues that are insurmountable. We've got 2 critical infrastructure issues. The road size is too small. It's not a collector road. It's only 20 feet wide. And access. Schools require access on 2 sides, and that's for safe drop-off and pickup, and it's because of that dense, that timing of drop-off and pickup, the intensity there. These issues can't be fixed. And when we talk about widening a road, it's normal for a development when they come in, if they're going to be dense in traffic, to have to use their own property for a turn lane. That's not considered widening a road, nor is just widening an intersection. That's not considered widening a road. This is still a 2-lane rural road. It's predominantly 20 feet wide, even with these fixes. And so we've got these 2 infrastructure issues that we don't think that we can, that they can be mitigated. But the third issue that can't be fixed is the disenfranchisement of the neighbors on South Winston. We've got 4 families that live between the proposed project and Northwest Military, and 1 family that's just up from there on Northwest Military. the proposal has their front yard now being a consistent right turn lane. And then we've got a family that lives immediately across the street from the Basis driveway. The project cuts these families off from their neighborhood entirely, leaving them in a quasi-commercial zone. They lose their ingress and egress access. That means their ability to get their kids to school on time, to get to work on time, to get to the doctor or the grocery store during these peak traffic hours. They lose access to mail delivery, garbage pickup, emergency services, family and friends. They are completely blocked in with the flow of traffic during these peak drop-off and pickup times. And I would suggest that at those times, all of South Winston is losing access, and the neighborhood behind it where we live. But those families are just intensely impacted. And they lose their property values. We've already seen the house across the street from Basis has put up a for sale sign. I know lots of Basis families say they want to move to Castle Hills, so there you go. They've put up a for sale sign. They don't want to live across the street from this kind of traffic and from a quasi-commercial enterprise when they chose to live in a neighborhood. I want to quickly touch on the change in tonight's presentation about the level of service being a D. I don't think that change considers the growth plan for the existing Christian school. They've got a goal set at reaching 1,000 students in the next couple of years. It doesn't consider the Vision Zero San Antonio.
Wait.
That doesn't allow their mitigation
Gotta
plan
wrap
to
it
work. Okay. And they use the wrong modeling. All right.
Thank you. Jackie, thank you for relinquishing your time. Okay, all right. Okay. Next is Bruce Smiley.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Bruce Smiley Califf. I live at 247 Foxhall Lane. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to read my statement tonight and hopefully blow through it a little bit faster. As a former member of this council, I have to say I don't envy you tonight. However, I do appreciate the pressure that's mounting on this situation and each of your dedication to our citizens and your sensitivity to their safety. Basis is here, as they are at each meeting, as we all are, with at least 2 litigators. The direct and indirect message has been from the beginning that if they're not granted a building permit, at any cost to the city, they will sue. And this city has been through lawsuits over this very property, in fact. It's expensive, it's time-consuming, and it's not something that any of us want. But outside threats cannot drive our decisions. Basis is not the only party with a primary interest here. I caution that the homeowners on South Winston also have an interest, valued by most of us as the proprietary issue. I was looking at Mr. Henry's website today, and he has case law posted, City of Sirocco versus Campos. That case outlines a claim of inverse condemnation or takings. There are 3 elements to this case: an intentional act by the government under its lawful authority. Number 2, resulting in the taking or damage or destruction of the plaintiff's property. And 3, for the public use. I submit to you that Castle Hills has sufficient information to be found substantially certain, that's the test, that harm might occur or will occur. We've seen the simulations. We've heard from 3 traffic engineers. We know that the traffic will stack up at the light at Winston and will harm the homes on Winston, and that will eliminate their ingress and egress. I believe creating a serious liability to the city for a takings claim from these property owners. They also are likely to have a continuing nuisance claim. And God forbid, if someone in those homes or on the proposed school campus were unable to get emergency services, the city might be subject to a waiver of its sovereign immunity in a court were it to find that the granting of this building permit, the city acted with a conscious indifference to the ability of emergency vehicles to operate and access these sites. Any of these suits could irreparably damage the image of our city. It could truly, morally, and financially bankrupt us. But it's not just about litigation. This project creates other obligations for the city. The sidewalk on the north side of South Winston that runs from the transit stop, for example, The slope along the wider footprint are taking significantly more space than is allocated, encroaching beyond the city's right-of-way. That means that the property owners who don't wish to sell off their property or yard to this project, the city would be forced to condemnation. I'm wrapping it. Is our council really prepared to establish a precedence to the kind of city that enacts condemnation of residential property for an inappropriately designed development? I'm going to go and omit the next couple of paragraphs. Yeah, let me wrap with one comment, though.
Please do, Bruce.
This building permit request comes at great and unreasonable cost to the city of Castle Hills. Unless we are prepared to explode our budgets and restructure our city's future, as previously discussed, I strongly recommend that you uphold and affirm the recommendation of the Architectural Control Commission and that any appeal be rejected outright. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Bruce. Okay. Next on the list is Thomas Fentress, and I do want to bring something up here. If everyone takes exactly 3 minutes, we're here till 11 o'clock. And that's before council gets a hold of it, and that's before any type of executive session that needs to be called happens. So I would ask that as we go through this, everybody, please express your views and feel free to take your 3 minutes. But also, if you hear something that sounds like yours, what you were going to say, your name is on the sheet, and so it will be recorded that you were here. So please feel free to use your 3 minutes. That's your right. But Thomas?
Thomas
ahead.
Fentress, 211 South Winston Lane, same side of the street, just down the street from the proposed project. I'm going to try to be brief and get mine into 2 minutes so I can give a minute away to somebody. I'm here for the real estate angle. With 27 years of experience in the real estate business and residential real estate, I don't think I have to convince anybody that 1,000 or so cars going to and from wrapping around houses that are up near the corner that you've just seen is going to damage their value. When and if it comes time for them to sign and that project is there, they'll be lucky to find an investor to turn it into a rental. The project that they just mentioned, the sale they just mentioned up the street across from the school has been on the market before. And while this is a better market than it was on before, it has actually reduced its price. So we're already having effect on real estate values. Now, some of the people in the room here realize that my mother-in-law and my in-laws and myself both live in an area that's affected by the school. We both moved here, and before we moved in, we both expanded and updated our properties. We did that when this project was not here. If we were doing that today, we would be taking a good hard look at the traffic that was coming through there and may well decide against it. I would think there would be other people who would probably feel the same way going forward that come behind us making those decisions. I've always touted Castle Hills as a wonderful place that's safe to update and expand because you don't get caught upside down in your properties. But that's always based on the fact that I thought that it wouldn't have things that would work against its values like we believe that this will. Finally, make one last little statement. Having lived there, we do understand that no matter what a traffic estimate says, we know we're a great shortcut. We can tell the difference when the cars go whizzing by and we don't recognize them. We know they're cutting through. And I do believe that they think that they can convince the parents not to disobey their rules to go through there. But it hasn't worked on Ramsey. We've heard stories. You'll probably hear a letter tonight to that effect as well. And we know that's going to happen. Thank you. That's 2.
Thank you, Thomas. Let's keep moving. Wayne Carter. Wayne? Thank you, Wayne.
Good evening. Wayne Carter, 125 South Winston Lane. At the architectural review meeting, the basis presentation showed a dark sky slide, and I would just like to bring it to your attention that the property line along my fence line does not have the blue coloring, which means that their dark sky mitigation will go into my property line. I don't know why they're doing it or whatever. I'd just like to make it known for the record that that did not mitigate along my fence line, possibly because of the trees that are there, but the trees are another subject to deal with down the road because those trees share a common fence line, and the two property owners would have to mutually agree to do something with the trees or not do something with the trees. But I'd just like to make it known. You have Wade. Hey, this is my neighbor, Wade Middleton, at 201 South Winston Lane.
A lot of this is because there's a large charter school named Basis looking to move into a small residential area in Castle Hills. The place that they've chosen is just not adequate for what they're trying to do. I'm all for them coming to Castle Hills, as many of our neighbors are, but they need to pick a location that's not going to basically impact old neighborhoods. They need to pick a location that's not going to impact the infrastructure of a small community. However, they don't have to follow those same rules. They don't have to have those concerns, those worries, because they're exempt from those. I look at my personal experiences living here in Castle Hills. You know, I moved in here a little over 15 years ago, and I've been remodeling my house. I've followed all the zoning regulations. I've followed all the laws. I've done everything I personally could to make sure that my property meets their needs. They don't have to do that. They can basically come in to a residentially zoned property, put a school down that's designed to house 1,100 students, and reroute everything around it. I mean, they're talking about what great neighbors they're going to be, but their concerns are, hey, we're going to reroute sewage, we're going to come up with a traffic plan, we're going to do all these things. Well, if you've got to look at all that, that tells you your site is not perfect for the situation, and you need to find another site. If you look at this location and its history, this is a piece of property that was owned by a local church, and basically the city and the church spent years in litigation, and the end result was turning this piece of property into a sports area, a place for the kids to use. But the church has now decided to sell it, and all of that decree and all of that law work, the new school Basis doesn't have to follow that. It's not applicable to them because there's holes in our legislation that allows them to come in and basically bypass all those laws. That's wrong. That's not what that's designed for. This is a residential neighborhood that sits on a two-lane street. They talk about where we're going to reroute traffic and we're going to do all that. Look at this road. I mean, you're talking about a two-lane road. How in anybody's mind can you think you can run 2,000 and 3,000 cars down this? Well, they talk about, well, we're going to block the road. Well, when you block the road, all the neighborhood behind it has to reroute their traffic. Why should we adjust for you when this is a residentially zoned area? We shouldn't have to. Talk about rerouting sewage. Well, I could care less which way your poop is going. You know why? Because you should be able to put it at a location that you tie into it, not move it, up for a mile. This location, and I'm sure many others for charter schools across the nation, just doesn't fit. But they've chosen this location because, number one, they can come in and pick it up cheaper than they could anywhere else, which helps their bottom line, but they can care less about the neighborhood around them. They're not listening to the people that are going to be the most affected to it. They're not hearing that message of, we don't want them here. You know what? There's plenty of great locations here. I hope that Basis comes to Castle Hills, but pick a location that makes sense. Pick a location that's not going to impact the town. Pick a location that's not going to impact the taxpayers, and pick a location that you're going to follow all the rules and not have to do what we've had to do for years, which is live within those rules. Be smart. Go someplace else. Change the legislation so that charter schools can't come in and bully small towns.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, next on the list is Van Garcia.
It's about 3:30 on Friday, February 17th, 2017. I'm just taking a look at the queuing that is occurring at the Basis North Central School, San Antonio North Central School. Standing on Ramsey, and I'm facing the intersection.
Van Garcia, 111 Hibiscus Lane, here to present Peter Bella's presentation.
Okay.
Which is off to my west. About 20 minutes until school actually lets out, so the queuing should continue. Here's a short look at the dead end on McCullough. And what I'm looking at is the fence that separates McCullough, cuts McCullough in half. On the other side, it lets onto the residential side. Perhaps you can see the houses, the tops of the residences on the other side of the fence. On this side of the fence, I'm planning to take a look north on McCullough. There's Basis. I'll just stop and zoom in for a second on Basis. So there's the Basis School. And again, the idea of the cars that are queued all the way down, waiting to turn. Trying to swing not too dizzyingly quickly, but people are leaving room for an entrance driveway here. I'm standing next to it, the other side of Ramsey. But you can see that cars are queued around the corner. So here we have a little bit of a mess because there's a big semi trying to take the left onto McCullough heading north from Ramsey. And people are queued to the side of the road. Because people are queued to the side of the road, the truck has a hard time passing. What that means is that people are backing up, now they're starting to flow, but people are backing up on the westbound side of the street. What this also shows, here on the eastbound side of the street, again, we've got a queue of folks. It goes all the way to the far end. I'll walk down there in a second, but for now, I'm just going to concentrate on this queue that's in front of the, or to the side of the school, to the north side of the school on East Ramsey. So again, here are cars that are kind of parked at that curve, that corner. And then when they're all back, you can see the cars that are parked, queuing in line, taking a left to go by the Basis front door. So again, just swing around, take a look westbound, facing out westbound on Ramsey. You can see the queue is now standing. The car, your cars are actually past the parking lot entrance. Quite a few folks.
Thank you, Van. Okay, X,
Mayor Xavier Fernandez, 316 Foxhall Lane. Terry and I were going to present together. It's going to be quicker if I do it.
thank you.
I'm going to,
Just defer, Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you.
technology issues. I have videos too. Mine are
Thank you.
shorter, so.
Thanks, X.
And not narrated either. I'm here to complain about the lack of technology in the city of Castle Hills.
No problem. No. We won't dock you for that. Don't start his time until the movie starts. Kim?
I'm even going to skip the videos. I wanted to use, talk about a couple of traffic issues as well. You can go to the next slide. I have videos that show the current state of the traffic at Ramsey, and this videos I took in the last couple months, but this is after all the mitigation efforts they've made at that campus to try to make it right. But if you just look at this slide, the red lines there, the arrow is where the camera was positioned, but the red lines there show you 20 minutes before dismissal how far back up and around the corner and down Isom the traffic queue goes. That blocks the right-hand lane of Isom all the way up to, there's a car wash there. Go ahead, go another one. Skip the video. Just hit the right arrow. Just hit the right, there you go. And so this is what it looks like at dismissal time. That's the peak time. And this was just the day I happened to video it, and the video is real clear. But it goes all the way back to the Social Security Administration. That's over 3/10 of a mile from the campus property. Go ahead, one more. And again, one more. All right, so I'm a former BASIS parent. My daughter went to the medical center campus for 2 years in 6th and 7th grade, and she went to the basic campus at Ramsey in 8th grade. I'm the one who picks her up from school, and if I arrived within a few minutes of dismissal time, I was stuck at the end of that red line next to half-price books most days. That's 4/10 of a mile plus beyond the campus property. That's for a school of a little over 600 students. Go ahead. The proposed school, as we all know, is a little over 1,000. BASIS has made a number of comparisons about talking about school density, and I think having a dense campus is terrific. It's efficient. The problem is it doesn't in any way slow down the number of cars that have to come and go, and as the engineer spoke to earlier, charter schools actually generate between 11 and 29% more trips than traditional schools. So I'm using go back one please, I'm using the schools that they used as examples comparing other San Antonio charter schools. Great Hearts Monte Vista has got 415 student enrollment. If you'll notice on the bottom, that's Mulberry, and on the left-hand side, there's another street there that both border the school, again, following San Antonio's guidelines of having 2 schools and 1 connector road for every school. Next. This is Kip Camino, 1,200 students. This is a very large school, but if you look down at the bottom, it has direct access to Commerce, which is a 4 or 5 lane connector road there, collector road, excuse me. And on the left-hand side, it's got another normal local road, a wide 2-lane road. Continue. This is the Idea School at Carver. It's got an enrollment of 880 students. I think it's Hackberry on the left-hand side. That's a 4 or 5 lane collector road. And across the top of this campus as well, there's a 2-lane local road. 2 roads, at least 1 collector. Next. Idea School at Monterey Park, again, 1,200 students. That's Commerce again across the north side. They have a long driveway that connects to Commerce. Collector Road, 4 lanes plus. And on the left-hand side, on the bottom left-hand corner, that's where it finds the local roads. And that's at least a 2-lane road. Again, 2 roads, at least 1 collector. Next. BASIS San Antonio Medical Center. It's on the corner of Hamilton Wolf and Floyd Curl, both collector roads. Access to both of those roads. Continue. BASIS San Antonio North Central. Even the poster child for San Antonio's problem with, the city of San Antonio's problem with charter school traffic has a 4-lane wide collector road with a 5th turn lane on the one side, and then McCullough, which is a wide 2-lane road on another side. Again, 2 roads, at least 1 collector. Next. We heard a lot about BASIS Scottsdale today and how it fits right into the neighborhood, and it kind of looks like it does, but if you notice the road it sits on is East Shea Road across the top. That is an 8-lane wide collector road. It has 3 lanes eastbound, 3 lanes westbound, a central left-hand turn lane, and multiple right-hand turn lanes, and then to the east side of it there, East 128th Street, that's 4 to 5 lanes wide depending. Continue. This is the first turn lane that comes off of that major collector road. You see the extensive queuing distance it has, turning into East 128th Street, which abuts the school. Next. This is the second turn lane off of that collector road. Two turn lanes off the collector road. This one, again, has extensive queuing area and drops right onto the campus into the parking lot. Next. This is the intersection of the main collector road. You can see it's 4 lanes wide here. Two designated left-hand turn lanes, 1 designated right-hand turn lane, and an inbound lane. Continue. And here's the East 128th Street that's next to that's the campus on the left, the campus parking lot. You can see it's 5 lanes wide there. That school is exactly the same size of what they're proposing in terms of capacity on Winston Lane. This is Winston Lane. The red box is the campus. You can see I've numbered out the 5 houses that are completely isolated from the rest of the community, the business on the corner, and you can see it sits on a 2-lane road. Dr. Bezanson made a comment earlier. He said that BASIS, and I'm going to try to quote as close as possible, he had mitigated to the greatest degree possible the traffic issues with this campus. I don't doubt it for a second, to the greatest degree possible. The problem is it's not possible to put 1,000 students on a 2-lane road with no other access. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Thank you, Terry, for your giving up that time. Bernard Udemeyer.
Hello, I'm Bernard Yedemeyer. I live at 115 East Castle Lane with my family. I have 2 kids, Allison and Bernard. And I want to thank y'all for being here and taking time, civic duty to help our city out. I'm asking the council to deny the application for BASIS to build on South Winston site as proposed. I live 2 blocks from the site, and I can tell you firsthand of the problems that we already have with St. George Episcopal School on the corner of West Avenue and East Castle Lane. St. George uses East Castle Lane as their personal parking lot each school day and a track after school. I think that this is unsafe for the students as well as for my 2 children. If I time leaving or coming from my house at the wrong time, usually in the afternoon after I pick up my daughter, if I talk too long to the other parents at school for 5 minutes extra, my driveway is blocked. And I try to get over it, nobody wants to move for me. And then the people behind me, because now I'm in the 2nd lane on East Castle Lane, now it's a 1-way, and now the parents get out of their car and they tell me to move. And I say, well, you talk to your other parents and you tell them to move. So it's just, why? We already have the problem. So we see the problem, but do we want another problem? And that's 500 students at St. George. So we're talking double that, and you're more than doubling the problems. So that's it. And, well, if I'm leaving my house and the driveway is blocked, after they move, I have to go down a 1-way towards West Avenue, and now I'm stuck with all this school traffic, and it's just more dangerous for me. If I could go left out of my driveway, I wouldn't have to go through all the school traffic where it's more dangerous. And that's where putting all this extra traffic on Winston and Northwest Military, you're going to cause accidents. It's the nature. You get more cars, it's going to be more accidents. So, I grew up on Castle Lane, and I've seen firsthand the accidents, like multiple accidents, not just one accident, at the intersection of West Avenue and Castle Lane. So, and one time a police officer was hit directing traffic, and then so now they kind of, I think I've heard that they reduced the lanes to 2 lanes now on West Avenue, so the officer is protected more. But now the St. George is collecting on West Avenue as well, queuing. So that's 500 students and on 2 roads, and now we want to put 1,000 students on 1 road. So it's just, there's be a lot more problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Udemeyer. Gene Kelly.
Hello. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here. I'm Gene Kelly. I live at 112 West Castle Lane. Last week, much to my surprise, I received a letter from Senator Jose Menendez. I've given you all a copy of it. I hope you've had a chance to read it. Anyway, I'd like to share it with the group tonight. Dear Gene, thank you for writing our office in regards to having a 1,000 student charter school built in Castle Hills, which jeopardizes the safety of students and families in the neighborhood. Due to your involvement, we have found that the city of Castle Hills, and according to the Texas Transportation Institute, a school of this size would require 30 acres of land, not including a sports fields. This type of school would not be built in this location if it had to conform to normal zoning ordinances. I have authored Senate Bill 1373, which would close the zoning loophole in order to uphold basic safety concerns when planning for a new charter school, like Castle Hills, to avoid unintended consequences, and it will set up a safeguard to protect from repeat occurrences in order to ensure proper safety and city guidelines. Now, this is important. It's important because it's saying that at the highest level of Texas government, they oppose the school at this location for health and safety concerns. And I would hope that this gives you some guidance in making your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Amanda Mills.
Hi, my name is Amanda Mills, and I live at 122 Foxhall Cove. There have been so many compelling statements tonight, I wish to be brief. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, as fellow citizens, we are all trying to uphold the integrity of Castle Hills and to keep it safe. The first consideration for any school is its health and safety issues and traffic concerns. This is the core issue before us tonight. The properties in question are still zoned single-family A residential. With 4,000 residents in Castle Hills, we are here considering 1/4 of the population of Castle Hills to be coming and going to one location, 2 times a day, 5 days a week. Our police, fire, and emergency personnel are charged with the task of protecting society's most vulnerable citizens, its youth, from the very ominous threat posed by high-volume traffic. This city is responsible for traffic safety regulation for all its citizens and extended community. In a 5-0 unanimous decision, the Architectural Review voted to deny Basis Charter School's application based on traffic issues and the little man. There are as many reasons to reject this proposal as there are students, faculty, and residents on South Winston Lane, and that is because each of these lives and their safety matter and will become the city's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mills. Cruz Mendoza.
My name is Cruz Mendoza. I live and own properties at 107 and 109 South Winston Lane, 100 feet from the proposed charter school. I am opposed to the building of the charter school in the 100 block of South Winston Lane. I understand the school has a contract on the property at 111 South Winston. We would have 1,100 students and 100 faculty and staff members as next-door neighbors. This neighborhood has lived a peaceful and quiet existence since approximately 1945. We have lived here for 50 years, and other neighbors have lived here longer in peace and tranquility. Approximately 2,000 cars coming and going to school daily compromise the safety and welfare of our neighborhood. The smoke and pollution of this huge number of cars traversing on a very narrow lane and the danger of collisions makes this project undesirable and unnecessary. Also, in order to accommodate teachers, staff, and students in this reduced area, there will have to be a tremendous amount of impervious cover, blacktop asphalt. This was addressed in a federal court several years ago when Castle Hills First Baptist Church tried to build a 400 to 500 car parking lot in the same site. The court denied the approval of this impervious cover parking lot. One of the reasons was a dangerous runoff onto South Winston Lane and the properties between the proposed site and Northwest Military Highway. There's a steep drop on the street and the land between the two areas. This charter school has its merits, but it needs a larger area and an area more amenable to this type of project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Next on the list is Judy Crawford.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your service, and I know that you care for our city as much as we do, and we appreciate your time. I'm a retired teacher of 31 years, and I'd like to address the issue of safety to parents, faculty, and most importantly, the students at BASIS. I taught at Huebner Elementary School for 19 years, and during those years, I was the lead teacher for dismissal, so I know a lot about coming and going. At Huebner, we had a student population that hovered between 850 and 900 students. Huebner sits on 14.4 acres right on Huebner Road, which is a 4-lane major thoroughfare. Our school has 2 entrances and exits onto Huebner, one controlled by a traffic signal and the other by a part-time police officer, usually an NEISD policeman. Of the 850 or so students, approximately 250 are car riders. Morning drop-off usually ran smoothly as the part-time officer directed parents into the 2-lane driveway. Some parents then pulled up and quickly dropped off the child, while others went forward and turned into a small parking lot on the side and parked. Even with the traffic light at our other entrance and the police officer, morning traffic would back up a quarter of a mile. If it was rainy or there was an accident, which happens several times a year, traffic backed up to Bitters Road a half a mile away. Morning drop-off also went more smoothly as several cars, approximately 7 to 8, could drop off at the same time. Students were dropped off right on the sidewalk next to the school, and several teachers were on duty each morning to greet them and supervise. Afternoons were a different matter. On a good day, dismissal usually took about 30 minutes. Parents were only allowed to enter through the main drive as buses were exiting our other driveway. Our students were kept in the library and 2 school hallways leading out to the sidewalk. I would identify a car using a walkie-talkie and call to other teachers on duty to send out children. This went smoothly if all classes and students were in place when called. First, parents do not arrive to pick up their children in the order we have them lined up. Second, delays happen because a child had to go to the gym to get his jacket or somebody forgot her homework. These delays happen every single day. Due to the sheer number of car riders at BASIS, I feel these same problems will be magnified Therefore, their assumption of a 40 to 60-second load time, I think, is inaccurate. I'm concerned that traffic will back up onto Winston and Northwest Military as students are loaning. I understand that they are proposing 2,500 feet of queuing space, but if you multiply the number of cars, let's just say it's 250, by a 23 average length of car and space between them, that would come to 5,750 feet, which would leave bases lacking about 3,250 feet of queuing space. Those cars would have to stack onto Winston and possibly Northwest Military. Making matters worse were parents who didn't follow the strict rules and procedures. Every day I had to ask parents to please use a crosswalk when retrieving their child. Some parents not wanting to wait in line would use the drive-through line and then cut in front of other parents who had been waiting patiently. We usually had 1 or 2 accidents a year from cars cutting in or cutting others off. Note that this all happened with heavy supervision and with a lot fewer students. I shared with you some of the problems that we've had, and my school was much smaller and sits on a larger thoroughfare. I encourage you to think about the safety, not only of the residents, but also of the students, faculty, and parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Jan Kelly.
Jan Kelly, 112 West Castle Lane. I've been a 32-year resident of Castle Hills. There are serious safety concerns about locating bases on South Winston. For 36 years, I taught middle school math for NEISD. The last 25 of those years were at Jackson Middle School. Jackson at 4538 Vance Jackson Road has several similar enrollment and staff numbers as bases. However, Jackson is located on over 18 acres of land on a major 4-lane road surrounded by businesses and apartments. Almost 80% of Jackson students take advantage of the bus service offered by NEISD. About 200 students are transported daily by their parents. There is a large covered concourse to protect students from weather during drop-off and pickup times. At Jackson, on after-school concourse duty, I observe the chaos that occurs each afternoon at pickup time. Beginning shortly after 3 p.m., the parking lot begins to fill with lines of parent vehicles waiting for the 3:25 dismissal bell. There are 2 lanes of parent vehicles parked and waiting in the entrance driveway of Jackson. They block anyone parked in the parking lot from leaving. They refuse to move. There is a second and third row of teacher parking spaces. Parents also line up between these parked cars, blocking cars from backing out and others from exiting the parking lot. The line of parents waiting to enter extends indefinitely down Vance Jackson towards 410. Despite a crossing guard, 5 teachers, an assistant principal, and an NEISD police officer on duty, little could be done to facilitate the dismissal. Without paying attention, students cut between cars and do not always use crosswalks. The parents are not cooperative and are reluctant to move, sometimes even blocking the fire lane. This same scenario, only 5 times larger, will undoubtedly repeat itself every day at Basis. Does Basis care about the safety or welfare of its students? The site they have chosen is an ill-advised, awkward choice that is inadequate in size and infrastructure. Without bus service, Basis will have all 1,000 of its students transported by their parents. This means 2,500 vehicle trips per day. Castle Hills residents nearby will not have access to the only outlet to Northwest Military. The massive influx of traffic will spill over into the residential streets and down Northwest Military. South Winston is clearly not a viable site for Basis, not today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Next on the list is Hank Goldstein. Hank? Hank left, okay. Next on the list is Robert Crawford.
Hi, Robert Crawford. I've lived at 107 West Castle Lane for 31 years. Thank you for helping us run our city. I know it can't be easy. In January, Dr. Steve Ackley, another resident of West Castle Lane, emailed the San Antonio Police Department about traffic conditions around the Basis School on Ramsey. I'm about to read the San Antonio Police Department's reply. So this is all in an email. Mr. Ackley, I am sorry for the confusion, but I'm the SAFFE officer for the area where the Basis School is located. I agree that there are major safety issues and concerns with the safety of the children and traffic flow during the morning drop-off and afternoon pickup. A meeting was held April 7, 2016, and I met with District 1 Chief of Staff, Mr. Bajenski, City of San Antonio Transportation and Capital Improvements, TCI, the Basis School Administration, and my supervisor, Sergeant Leonard. We observed dismissal and discussed how to ensure the pedestrian safety. It was determined by TCI that the crosswalk could not be placed in front of the school at East Ramsey and McCullough, since the crosswalk already being provided a few feet away at the intersection of Islum and East Ramsey. The traffic light at the intersection ensures a safe crossing of 4 lanes of traffic. In order for a crosswalk to be placed at East Ramsey and McCullough, another traffic light would have to be installed and a sidewalk would have to be developed across the street from the school. Unfortunately, the distance between the intersections would not allow another traffic light to be placed in the intersection. TCI also explained to school administrator that since they are privately owned school, they would have to be financially responsible for pay half of the cost to post school zone signs. It did not appear the school was financially willing to pay for half the cost. The schools attempted to take its own precautions of cutting down traffic congestion by having 2 dismissal times and by dividing parent pickup at the front and rear of the school. So the school also sends out reminders to parents that children are not allowed to leave the school campus without a parent picking them up at the school to avoid children running across the street. The school has also assigned a teacher to assist in directing traffic through the parking lot to help with the flow of everything. Some parents have also pitched in to provide limo services, bus rentals, and vans to pick up multiple children and avoid congestion. As we observed the dismissal, it was obvious the parents were not complying with the school rules. It was apparent that the teachers were attempting to direct traffic were not visible to parents at the parent pickup line. I suggested that the teachers directing traffic into the parking lot wear reflector vests and whistles so that parents can have a better understanding of what to look for. I also recommended that the school hire 2 police officers to direct traffic for them in the roadway during the drop-off and pickup times and to prevent any jaywalking in front of the school. The school was concerned about the cost of hiring police officers to direct traffic for them and did not want the police issuing jaywalking tickets to the parents in fear of retaliation. The school stated that they would educate their parents at the next PTA meeting about running across the street, setting an example for their children, and using crosswalk at the intersection that is already being provided for them at the Islum Road in East Ramsey. The school administration listened to all our advice, suggestions, and issues, and stated they would be contacting their corporate office in Arizona to see what would be at their best interest. So wrapping up, there's 3 points. The traffic problems that we're talking about, as other people have said, have come from a school on bigger property, fewer students. 2 is crosswalks require sidewalks on both sides of the street and crossing light. Neither of them are in the plan that we're seeing tonight. And this also points out that operational mitigations don't always work. They're inadequate, especially if a school has to ask their corporate offices in another state before they can do anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Next in line is Jan Garcia.
Hi, my name is Jane Garcia. I live at 111 Hibiscus Lane. I'd like to talk about the concept of engineered solutions versus operational solutions as it relates to this proposed project. We might think of engineered solutions as thought-out, definitive, concrete plans that won't change. Operational solutions, as opposed to engineered solutions, would be more fluid and subjective and occur because the original operating plan was inadequate, inappropriate, or isn't working. Corrections are made to operating plans because they were not well thought out at the beginning. Our city council can make decisions on concrete engineered solutions because they are givens, but we can't rely on BASIS's changes to operational procedures to fix later problems. We've heard BASIS talk about a lot of operational scenarios this evening and also in their earlier meetings. fixes and things they hope will happen after the original proposal doesn't work. A couple of comments from their presentation this evening. They talk about changing the timing of lights on West Avenue and Winston to help the flow of traffic and also to accommodate necessary pedestrian improvements at Winston and Northwest Military. Well, there was a gentleman here from TxDOT last week that said these changes can be made, but they take 6 months or so to implement. That's not a fix we can rely on. Peter, their CEO, talked about parents driving through off-site. He said, our follow-up and enforcement of traffic plans makes rule followers out of rule breakers because they have real teeth. They, the parents, know it's not allowed. They perceive they'll get in trouble, so they won't do it. Well, we all know human nature, and they have no plan whatsoever to prevent parents, or kids for that matter, from driving into the adjoining neighborhoods and parking on those streets. The problem is, our city will not be able to rely on nor enforce any operational solutions that BASIS talks about, which can be constantly changed, arbitrarily enforced, or never even addressed by BASIS. They will not need our city's approval or our justification. They can tell us anything they want and make it all sound believable and acceptable. They'll be able to do whatever they want, and we will have no control over it, none. The BASIS representatives tell us they want to be good neighbors, bringing their school into our neighborhood. They sound genuine and convincing, so we believe their story. But in last week's meeting, one of the representatives said, quote, "We want to be in your neighborhood." No, in reality, they just want to drive in and out of our neighborhood. It's insincere to claim they want to be a good neighbor when they wholeheartedly discount all the negative impacts to the existing residents. Also, what happens when these people here tonight go away? Or if corporate decides to change some of these operational policies and procedures they talk about. Since operational ideas are completely arbitrary and subjective and not enforceable by our city, these ideas can certainly change. It will be like constantly shifting sand with us having no say. Most importantly is going to be the unknown cost. Castle Hills will be stuck with any and all associated costs of fixing problems they create, involving infrastructure, traffic, policing issues, forever. Our tax dollars will fund their enterprise, including their for-profit management contract, but a good neighbor would be a much better steward of our resources. It will be ka-ching into their corporate coffers and ka-ching out of ours. We have no way of estimating what the cost will be to our city now and into perpetuity, and that is very scary. So, in conclusion, we oppose BASIS putting a campus on that treasured piece of Castle Hills land, and we respectfully ask that you agree with the recommendation of the Architectural Review Committee to not allow this development.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay, Ione McGinty.
Thank you, City Council. Just to follow up with Jane, I attended the 4-hour meeting of the Architectural Review Committee, and I just want to commend them for the wonderful job they did sifting through all the information.
Ione, would you state your address, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
344 Townview.
Thank you.
So I would like to follow up with Jane, and one thing they said last week, one of the representatives from BASIS said that there's some questions that we just won't know until we open. And Juan Solis had a wonderful closing remark. He said, at that time, their problem becomes our problem. So their questions and their traffic issues, that becomes our problem. And as far as what they mentioned about the parents following the rules, all I can tell you is you just look around and you see how many people talk on the phone or text when they're not supposed to. People don't follow rules, and so there are gonna be problems that become our problem. And so anyway, I just wanna reiterate that last week they concluded unanimously that basis would cause traffic and safety issues, not good for our community, and that the intersection received a failing grade. Thank you.
Thank you, Ione. Jana Baker. Jen, I apologize, you were between two scratch-offs, so I got to get glasses, so.
Jana Baker, 304 Foxhall Lane. I'm here to clarify some issues that BASIS has raised. BASIS claimed that they have reached out to the neighborhood. They did not. One of the neighbors reached out to them, called them, and organized the neighborhood meetings. And other members of this community reached out and called the CEO personally. At the first BASIS meeting, they were attended by at least 3 litigation lawyers. Litigation lawyers sue people for a living. At this first meeting, Joe Hoffer put his elbows on the table, drew himself up really large, and said, "We have state statute on our side, and you can't win." Then Ed Aldred, who's another lawyer for BASIS and a BASIS parent, told us, "Why are you still here? Why are you still fighting? You can't win." This is BASIS being neighborly. From the beginning, BASIS has finagled and fudged the figures and numbers that they gave to their own traffic engineers, Pape Dawson. They did this, I think, to skew the results, hoping that no one would notice. And they typically don't turn in reports. They haven't since the Pape Dawson report. So no one can review them. Their CEO and Ava Stanky promised me and shook my hand, telling me that they would take care of the neighborhood, that they would control access through the neighborhood, put a gate in with a clicker. They have reneged on every one of these. Their traffic reports, the current ones, that they haven't shared with anybody except verbally, do not address the cut-through traffic on Foxhall Lane, Hibiscus, West Castle Lane, and they don't address the fact that they will be isolating and imprisoning 5 residents and a business on Northwest Military and Winston. BASIS has threatened to sue this city if they don't get what they want. The BASIS parents should be concerned that BASIS is spending their money and state money to threaten to sue a small city like Castle Hills. The citizens, homeowners, and your neighbors that are here tonight have spent countless hours, their time, money, to find the truth. And the truth is that BASIS cannot mitigate all of the traffic problems that they will create. This is a fact, and the engineers back this fact up. It is also a fact that at the federal hearing last December, the federal judge did not say that the city could not issue a denial for any building permits requested by BASIS. The federal judge said it 7 different times in various ways, that this court has no authority to be telling the city of Castle Hills how to and when to, and in the process to follow in issuing building permits and other things of that kind. There are insurmountable problems regardless of traffic mitigations. The size of the lot is too small. It lacks access from a second road. It cannot queue cars on site. These are fundamental and insurmountable problems. Most of us were here last week, a couple weeks ago, when the ARC committee recommended unanimously to deny the BASIS application. You have the authority and you have the responsibility to uphold the ARC decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. Next on the list is Laverne Jappet. Laverne, thank you. Thank you. Next on the list is Kalaya McCracken, and forgive me if I didn't pronounce that name correctly. Kalia? Kayla. Kayla, thank you. Kayla. Okay, that's right. Thank you.
Hello, I'll make this short. We moved here my 6th grade year, and I attended the STEM program at Nimitz.
Kayla, could you tell us where you live, please?
302 Antler Drive.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So my 6th grade year, I attended the STEM program at Nimitz, and the education was pretty good. I was a straight A student all year long, but the environment for me, and the curriculum was still a bit too easy for me. So when we found out about BASIS, we finally switched over, and ever since then, it's been such a great experience and fit for me. I've been straight A student still, and it's just really challenging, and the teachers are there, they're interacting with you to trying to make sure you understand every part of it, which is very helpful because they really do want you to understand the material, which is very, very helpful, especially if you're struggling. So being a good student and with the teachers always there supporting you, they're always there helping. So if you start to struggle with your grades and start getting stressed out, they're there for you to help you try and succeed. So that's why one of the reasons I really do like BASIS, and I like how it's moving into Castle Hills where it will be near my house. So it won't take us as far to attend school, and that way me and my sister will be able to bike to school, which will also give us physical activity. It's just, we love biking. So in that part, we really are excited for BASIS too. And also for the pickup, my mom, when we're outside, she will pick us up and we'll be out of there, out of the car lines, all the busy lines and all that in less than 5 minutes. And typically, because just in case if the traffic does get back up on certain days, my mom will let us know, so she won't leave the house till 3:45, and she won't arrive till school till 4 o'clock, so she doesn't have to wait in traffic. So because of that, she's compromised for that, and because she doesn't want to wait, and she has my brother to pick up too right here across the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Wow. Okay, Steve McCracken. What grade is your daughter in, Steve? Ninth?
Steve McCracken, I also live at 302 Antler.
Right.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for your time here tonight. I, yes, do live at 302 Antler, and I am here to support the building of BASIS within Castle Hills. I was at the meeting of the Architectural Review Committee on the 3rd, and was frankly highly disappointed in the conclusion that the committee regarding the application of BASIS schools. If you've driven by my house on Antler, you'll see that we've got some 2-foot-tall oak trees planted in our yard. If you're at all familiar with oak trees, you know that those growing at only about a foot a year will take quite a long time to be the large shade trees that we envision. I tell you this because while we've only been here about 3.5 years, we came with the idea of being here for a while and have a vision for the future within this community and how we might enhance the area around us. The purpose of the Architectural Review Committee states that it is there to promote orderly and harmonious development within the city, to enhance living and business conditions within the city, to assure high standards for aesthetic quality of development, and to assure the natural features are appropriately preserved and integrated with the development. If you heard, the words enhance and develop are integral to the purpose of the committee. To borrow a phrase from Juan Solis's closing remarks the other day, I looked up the definition of develop, and it means to aid in the growth of and to strengthen, or to improve the quality of, refine. Enhance means to improve or augment, especially in effectiveness, value, or attractiveness. These words have in them the idea of change and progress. To me, the closing remarks the other night were not following the mandate of the Architectural Review Committee to guide a healthy growth of the future, but a reaction to the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or as some call it, the FUD, being spread to halt any progress and development that would enhance and strengthen our community. The remarks boiled down to saying that it didn't really matter what the professionals' conclusions are, but due to the fear, uncertainty, and doubt of some of the people, the application should be denied. Also, to borrow from the ideas of Mr. Van Garcia, who spoke at the January 10th council meeting during the discussion of the construction of a commercial building on West Avenue, I think it was, he mentioned that we need to be very careful not to veer off from using only our written code so that we don't fall into cronyism and ad hoc decisions. I would like to point out that we in Castle Hills don't have any guidelines for traffic in developments. So in this case, we need to be careful not to disregard the work of the professionals to follow the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to arbitrarily deny an application that would truly enhance the conditions of our city by bringing in a world-class educational institution to Castle Hills. The main point of contention the other night was the differing views on the traffic level service of D or E. While Castle Hills, once again, has no guidelines, which we may want to review, many cities and the city's own traffic engineers state that D is an acceptable level. I was going to talk tonight about the E level of service was only 0.1% of the time during the week. But now we've learned that's not even an issue. They've mitigated even to a D level, which is acceptable to the city's own traffic engineer. So, since that main sticking point is
Steve,
no longer an
can we
issue,
wrap it up?
I'm concluding here with, I would just ask that the council move forward boldly to promote the forward-looking development and enhance the conditions of this city of Castle Hills through approving this development as an investment in our future.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks again, everyone. I would ask that we try really hard to stay within the 3-minute limit. But with that said, believe it or not, we only have 45 minutes left. So I would ask council, do you want to take a 5-minute break, or do you want to plow through this? Break? Okay, we got one. John? I'd ask the crowd, but we're going to take a 5-minute break, please, and that will be a strict 5 minutes. And if you'd like to stretch, go to the restroom, whatever you might need to do. Thank you. Okay, everybody, if we can find our way back to our seats, please. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Okay, if we can find our way back to our seats, we're going to get moving again. Next on the list, and I'm really going to botch this one, Michelle Hafferny. Was that correct?
It's Michelle Haffernick, and you're not the first to mispronounce it, but thank you for your valiant try.
Thank you.
I don't live in Castle Hills. I live just outside here up on Bitters Road in the Hidden Forest neighborhood.
Sure.
But
And
I'm
what is your
here-
address, ma'am?
907 Silver Spruce.
Thank you.
I'm here because I believe in Castle Hills. 25 years ago, I rented an apartment right up here on Blanco, like every other young urban professional. I couldn't afford a house in the city limits, so I settled up in Hidden Forest instead. But I still shop at Johnny Chokes. I have my money out here at the Frostbank branch. I eat at Sushi Hana. My son plays ball in I-9 Sports at Castle Hills Baptist. I have a teenager at Churchill, go Chargers. I was a kindergarten parent at St. George. My son's father is a Lee High School graduate, and my in-laws are still residents and voters in Castle Hills. They've been here for 50 years. I'm here to let you know that my experiences at Castle Hills and at Basis tell me that some of these traffic concerns are a bit overblown. I think that Basis parents are exactly the people who would continue to make Castle Hills a special place, and I think the traffic problems are overcomable. First of all, I understand the concerns about the congestion. I've seen the ingress and egress at Basis, but it's less than half of what I experienced at St. George, both in the number of cars and in the amount of time. Basis Logistics get us in and out at staggered times very efficiently. I have idled in that line at Basis. You saw the videos. There were, 40, 50 cars in the video? Not thousands like we're predicting. I've sat in that line, and I've sat no more than 5 minutes every time I pick my son up from school. The second thing I understand is that people living next door are worried about an invading army. I live right next to Hidden Forest, and I have a parade of buses and cars that go through my neighborhood every morning and every afternoon. I've been there 7 years, and never once has my driveway been blocked, never once have I been late for school, and never once have I not cursed saying, I wish these people would get out of my way. So I understand that having a school in your neighborhood is a very important piece of your property value. My house has continued to perform financially for years because of the quality of school right down the street. I also have confidence in Chief Riedel and the Castle Hills Fire and Rescue that they'll be able to respond to any and all emergencies, especially as we continue to plan together to make the ingress and egress even better in the plan. In closing, I want to remind you that Basis is exactly the kind of organization that people like us want in our communities. I heard earlier about the awesome NEISD schools. We all heard the great report from the lady from NEISD. Castle Hills is known for its quality schools, for a small town atmosphere, for all of the choices, the educational choices for all of the parents who desire to live here, specifically so that they can raise their children this way. Basis attracts involved parents. It has teachers and administrators who instill the ability to succeed in all BASIS students. These are successful, ambitious families who want to raise successful and ambitious children who will become the future of Castle Hills in the same way that I have. These students and this city council deserves to have a prestigious amenities for its 1,800 households. And that includes the 2 existing grade schools, the 2 existing middle schools, the 2 existing high schools, the 6 existing private schools, and the best charter school in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Ian Haberman. Even Haberman. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Evan Haberman, and I live at 210 South Winston Lane. First statement is traffic, like water, finds the least path of resistance. If it's stacked up, they're going to find another way to go, which means Hibiscus, Winston Lane, Foxhall will be used. Now, there's probably enough room on the Winston between the telephone poles to put in 4 lanes. They suggested 3 with a sidewalk. This ADAD comparable, but if you look at it, it's at least a 6-foot drop from Military down to Winston Lane. So I don't know how many driveways they would have to block to put in that approved walkway, sidewalk. The question, I guess, for the city attorney is, are we legally obligated to build them another road? Whether we pay for it, they pay for it or not. And I don't need the answer right now, but just a question. And then, of course, they do have the wealth and power to, BASIS does, to lobby the legislature so they can use small communities and not go by the rules that they would other places. And that says that it's kind of like the might makes right type of attitude. And I don't know if we need that type of attitude here. And I just appreciate y'all being here and spending your whole evening listening to complaining people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lisa James. Lisa James. Ma'am, if you could just state your address and your name, please. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, it is Lisa James. I'm really short, so sorry. 7347 Leah Branch. I actually have 2 students, 2 kiddos that attend BASIS Medical. And I want to actually thank you guys for being here, and also for the current residents of Castle Hills. Definitely understand your concerns. One of the things is with change, it's coming here from, moving here to San Antonio maybe about 11, 12 years ago. I have seen the city evolve so much with all the development, all the opportunities, and all the growth. And with that, being able to see yet another opportunity to be a part of that, not only that, but to allow my kids to benefit from that. And not only just mine, everyone's. To have my children being able to have that experience with at least with a medical center, with that location, the staff has been phenomenal. I cannot stress that enough. I understand the concerns with the safety and the traffic. The way how everything has been going with the staggered and the time frame, I don't experience that. I too have been part of that, of the effect of having a new thing come in where it's going to be impacting what I thought was going to be impacting my time. In order to do that, I've adjusted to just maybe leave a little bit earlier to do so. I understand that it's extremely sensitive, and I do ask that for the consideration to think of not only the time that has been invested by all of you all to reviewing all the information that has been presented thus far on both sides, but the benefits that it would actually present to the community. To be able to have something in addition, not necessarily taking away from it, but enhancing it even more so. With the traffic, yes, I definitely, like I said, I've been a part of that process as a result of change and growth. With the staggered time frame, absolutely. We have the 7:45. I I normally drop my kids off significantly early. It does not take that long in the time frame because it's very smooth, and we do have staff that's out there that is very much in control of that to make sure that we don't stay in that line very long. Kids are in and out. There's also notifications that are sent out to us, just as reminders and as courtesy, because people are, just out of respect for everyone's time, to make sure that your children are ready, backpacks are ready, everything's all good to go, and you're out the door. It's extremely organized. The pickup does not take that long. The measures of even to go through accommodating it, it does seem like there has been quite a bit of research that has been done to ensure that that is something that could be certainly feasible. So out of respect, I do ask that you consider approving this process and this new project that may actually benefit not just a few, but all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, I apologize in advance. I know I'm going to botch this one up. Kylim Wa? Kyumin, new word Whanh. Okay, thank you. Jessica Milner?
Mayor, council members, respected residents, I apologize for the stress that you're all going through with this process. I feel
Could-
badly.
Please give your address, please, ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I live at 22130 Gypsy Hawk,
Thank
San
you.
Antonio. Thank you for letting us attend your meeting tonight. We would be honored if you would permit our children to attend your school in your beautiful community. My name is Jessica, and I have two daughters attending BASIS, one in 5th and 7th grade. We normally ride a parent-chartered bus unless the girls have before or after school activities. We love BASIS because the bar is set high for all students. They're learning how to learn and how to dig deeper. Teachers are excellent. They are all subject matter experts. They hold advanced degrees in their respected areas. They love what they do and are excited to share, making complex subjects meaningful and interesting to our students. Teachers and administration are disciplined in the classroom. The campus is for getting work done. Parents are able to pay for performance, which means we donate to a teacher's fund, and we do this because we appreciate what the teachers do to our kids. It's not tuition. The Parent Network, many parents volunteer. We are interested in making sure faculty is supported and our kids have lots of opportunity to expand their interests and talents. Parents I've met happily invest lots of time in their kids, alleviating a lot of disciplinary concerns we've seen left unchecked at other schools. And the students, of course, kids are kids, but those I've met have integrity, self-discipline, are respectful, and are interested in succeeding in the next phase of their lives. Thank you all very much for your time and consideration. Have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Sean Tillman.
Sean Timlin, 400 Foxhall Lane. I commend the BASIS School on its efforts to mediate traffic concerns, but they've been unsuccessful. And attempting to queue traffic in its own parking lot creates its own set of safety problems. In the Castle Hills Ordinance, Division 3, Section 18-175, it states, "The fire chief is authorized to designate fire lanes on designated premises where such areas must be free of parked vehicles and other obstructions to provide ready access to buildings herein in case of a fire emergency." In my opinion, 2,500 feet of queued cars would be considered an obstruction. Although this issue is partially addressed, moving 2,500 feet or 6,000 feet of queued cars is still an obstruction. But if you have a different interpretation of this, Castle Hills defers to the San Antonio ordinances. San Antonio Ordinance 8.12.040 specifically states it is a violation and unlawful for any person to stop, park, or leave standing any vehicle in any fire lanes. And both San Antonio and Castle Hills have adopted the International Fire Code, 2015 edition. Just as it is not safe to queue traffic in the street, it is also not safe to queue traffic in their parking lot. Now let's put this into perspective. I'm a school teacher, and at my school, we have 650 kids. So I went to the nurse and I said, how often is EMS called? And she said, 4 times this year. And I thought that was low. I was surprised it was low. And she said it was 6 last year calls to EMS. And I said, oh, wow, I thought it'd be a lot higher. And she goes, higher? It only takes 1. And I beg that you keep these students safe and we keep the residents safe and reject this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Okay. Believe it or not, let me make sure. Oh, there's 2 more pages. I'm just kidding. That's not funny. Okay, just believe it or not, we're at the last one. And that's Jen Manwart. Actually, we have one more after that. Person, not page.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Jennifer Manwaring, 317 Foxhall Lane. It's been a long night. It's been a long 8 months, really. And I think that it's telling to look through that history and think, why did it take us 8 months to get here? Perhaps because it was a bad idea to start with. Something that's workable is workable, and something that's not has to be redone, revisited, revised, massaged, corrected, doing the math again and again and again to try to make it work. 8 months of math has not made this work. We have a lot of students in a building that's sufficient for the students sitting on a 2-lane road that's not sufficient for the parents trying to get them to the school. It was said last week in the Architectural Review Committee meeting, we're basically turning Winston Lane into a cul-de-sac. That's not enhancing our community. It's not empowering our neighbors. It's not beautification of the city. Perhaps they think in a small town we're all stupid. Well, we have teachers here. We have doctors. I'm still in my scrubs. I left home this morning at 7:30. I go through the St. George traffic, but I make it out because I get there before they do. We have lawyers, we have stay-at-home moms, we have stay-at-home dads. We have a lot of really smart people who unify themselves, work together, know each other, and we know what improvement looks like, and this isn't it. There's no doubt that Basis is a wonderful school. John's kids go there. They're wonderful children. We have another student that spoke. She spoke very eloquently. It's a beautiful building, but it just doesn't belong there. The traffic isn't right. The size of the road isn't right. It's not right. The traffic study, I've learned a lot. I spent a lot of time reading medical jargon, and now I'm reading zoning ordinances and traffic studies and whatnot. So I've been educated. I thank you for that. And I've broadened my horizon of education for sure. And so when I first read the traffic study and I thought, well, this is a no-brainer, I'm like, it says right here, E. I've gotten a lot of A's in my life. I've got a few B's. I never got an E. Never got an F. So to think that going from E to D is an improvement, that's acceptable. D is for disaster, dysfunction, deficient, devastating. Traffic doesn't get better. We're going from a C to now a D at best. Then we go to an E, well, that's an emergency, and the next letter is F, and then we fail. Traffic doesn't get better. And the neighbors that are being ostracized, it's not getting better. So with that, I thank